Hello and welcome to Partners in Public Safety, the television show that brings you closer to the men and women of your police, fire, and emergency management services here in the city of Wilmington.
Along with Corporal Mark Ivey, I'm Corporal Jamaine Crawford. We're filling in for John Rago. We have a great show for you today, as it is all about the police.
And since we're filling in for John, we figured it would be a great idea for him to take over for us. So we sent him on a ride-along with Corporal Spearman on the streets of Wilmington.
Yeah, sure.
171 Bravo.
71 Bravo.
I'll be 10-8. Can you hold me on assignment?
10-4.
I'll just go through my district and kind of do a little grid pattern through my district just to make sure all the corners are clear.
Okay.
And, try and handle some nuisance complaints.
Okay.
And if an emergency type complaint comes in, then we'll just respond to that.
Okay, good. What is your district? Is it downtown area, or are we?
My district is considered the 17 district area, which is the west side of 95, 3rd Street, south of 3rd Street to the city limits, and west of Jackson to Union Street.
Okay. All right. That's a pretty big area.
Pretty big area.
Yeah. And what is your career? How many years have you been on the force?
15 years of service.
Really? 15?
Yes, 15
okay.
years of service.
All right. Oh, I was going to ask you, was law enforcement what you picked out for yourself as far as a career? Is that what had you always wanted to be a police officer?
Absolutely, absolutely. So to me, there was no better calling. When I first got hired by the city of Wilmington, it was, urban environment.
Mm-hmm.
I was hired by another agency out in Pennsylvania at the same time, but I decided to go with Wilmington because of the urban environment. I figured I could be a good role model for the citizens of Wilmington, and for the excitement. Wilmington is an exciting area.
Right, and that's an interesting mix that you just mentioned in terms of public service,
mm-hmm.
but at the same time, excitement about the job itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When you say excitement, what does that mean to you as I guess police officers use different terms, but what's excitement to you?
To me, excitement is going on high priority calls, felonies, robberies, assaults.
Yeah.
Those are exciting calls for me. Calls in progress.
Okay, right. That's because essentially, and I guess you wouldn't be in this line of work if you weren't interested in going where the action is.
Exactly. Some of us are, but I think most of us like the true excitement of the job. True excitement of the job. And to be in a position to actually make a difference. Sometimes it just feels like you're treading water, but at the end of the day, just being out there makes a difference. And that's, you like to say, oh, I did this, I saved this person's life, but that doesn't always happen. But you can make a positive impact on someone, even if it's on a routine domestic type call where you're getting the batterer, the person, the aggressor out of the house, or helping a child. That's making a difference in someone's life, even if it's just temporary.
Right. Treading water, of course, because as much as you try, and no police officer, no police agency can wipe out crime totally, but I guess the criminals just keep on keeping on, huh?
Yeah, they keep moving. They don't seem to want to stop.
Yeah. Do you have in your, I would imagine after a while, if you're in a particular area and patrolling a particular area on a regular basis, you get used to which areas you have to check and so on.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, usually what I do when I first come on, I'll usually take a ride down 4th Street and see who's out. Kind of take a mental note to see who's hanging out. especially the ones that stand out, like the gentleman back there in the yellow shirt. So I know next time I come around this area, if he's still hanging out there, then I'll, stop him. He may even work at that shop. I don't know. Introduce myself and see if there's anything going on. If there's anything. So I usually come down here. I usually do a grid pattern. I'll go down 4th, then 3rd, 2nd, Lancaster, and then cut through the Hedgeville area a little bit.
Okay.
Reed Street area. It's another hot spot. It's nice to see kids.
I was just going to say, a little boy just waved to you.
Yeah, that's nice. You don't get that all the time.
Yeah, no, that's good. I was just going to ask you about, I guess, you can't help but, especially if you stop people from time to time, just check and see what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You have to develop some sort of relationships out here, whether good or bad.
Absolutely. I have a pretty good reputation out here, actually, because I've been on the west side, and I'm not the type that'll give, extra stuff. I think I'm pretty fair. I try to be fair, and so my nickname out here to some people, some people call me Pepper. If they call me Pepper, then I know that the time that I dealt with them is when I had a partner who was Officer Steffi, was a white officer, and we were salt and pepper, which means chances are if they call me Pepper, then I dealt with them usually in a drug-related capacity, because at that time we did a lot of drug work in our career. But then it just spreads, like your nickname will spread to different people, Like sometimes I'll be out there, and let's say if someone's giving me a hard time, someone else be like, oh, that's Pepper, he's cool, So it's nice to have that type of reputation. But then you get those that don't like me at all, Can't make everybody happy. There's a school bus down there, so it's probably dropping.
Yeah.
But I'll swing around just to make sure. Yeah, they'll see me coming. They'll see me coming a block away.
And he obviously doesn't know you back here. Always.
See what these people are up to.
Okay.
Get out.
Grab my hat. Guys, get out if you like. Do you mind if I get out? Sure.
That's what it is.
How long do you anticipate them being out?
I can't tell you. We're going to try to wrap it up before it gets too late. Okay, I'll turn it down. That's fine. I'm going to get it. All right, gotcha. Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
I know the answer, but have you changed your views at all in the 15 years in terms of people or what they're like or how to deal with them or what?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but actually I have. You become jaded with the whole process. And what I usually tell people, like let's say, because you want to make a difference, and I could tell you that in my 15 years of law enforcement experience, I have been to family court on a domestic related incident exactly 1 time, 0 time. I've never been to court on a domestic related assault before in my career. And that's because the victim never shows up.
While you're in the area, they're receiving loud pieces for third ambulance.
So here you are. You may even get into a situation where you think you're helping someone by getting an abuser out of a situation or an abused person out of a situation, and then they don't follow up and help themselves.
Correct.
That's tough.
Correct. That is tough.
That is tough.
And sometimes it just get played. The cases get played to a more insignificant charge, but most of the time the charge is dismissed. For victim lack of cooperation.
Right. With all of what's out here on the streets and different people, different situations, and so on and so forth, do you are a police officer, do you feel that, are you respected as a police officer?
Yes and no. It depends on what area that you patrol. Certain areas feel like you get no respect from the public, at least the people that we deal with. The people that we deal with generally are the people that are hanging out in the streets, hanging out on the corners. So they're easily accessible to us, so they're the ones that we come in contact with. So to them, no, we're not respected. They feel as though they're getting harassed all the time. Why are you harassing me? When just like on Van Buren Street, I'm sure they feel as though you gotta pull off. So find a parking spot.
932 Danny.
There you go. I wish I had a pair of those. Yeah, that's kind of a an urban fact anymore. Is I'll just pull off wherever I can, and I don't have to pull into a space.
Exactly.
It's right next to me.
There could be 20 spaces right next to you, but
Right.
they want to stop right there in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
That's a pet peeve of mine.
26 Bravo.
10-3.
You right with me?
Hey man, what y'all doing? What you gonna do when they come for you, bad boys, bad boys?
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
I'm just trying to find out man.
Oh, that's my mom's house right there.
Family right here.
Family.
Chilling.
Yeah, I just got surgery. I came down to visit because I live in hospital. Yeah.
I don't know. That's my mama.
My mama.
That's my sister.
Who lives right here?
We're gonna move right down here.
You want to sit down?
Get out your way.
Oh, no problem, officer.
What you gonna do when they come for you?
No.
You gotta be camera though.
We're going to jump around to the
Wilmington, West Side.
I'm going to make sure he releases them checks.
Glad to see you got that kind of pull.
All right. I got that pull. I'm going to tell you.
The age range of like the kids that ones that give you the most problems.
Ones that give us the most problem, I'll say between the ages of 12 to 17.
Interesting, yeah. And I would imagine that lower age has dropped over the years.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
What about girls?
Girls, it could be, I would say with the women.
I'm gonna back off a little bit. Just go ahead.
I would say with the women it's probably 15 to 23. Good night.
All right, and take care of yourself.
I will.
Okay. All righty. See if I got everything. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Corporal Spearman. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
Welcome back. Joining us, we now have Officer James Wiggins and Timothy Dean, two of our newest police officers here at the Wilmington Police Department.
Well, let's get right to it. The number one question that you're going to be asked when you're on the street, we're going to ask you right now. Let's start with you, Tim.
Okay.
Why did you become a police officer?
Well, it's before I worked here. I worked at juvenile probation for about 10 years in the serious juvenile offenders unit. And while I was there, I performed as many functions as I could within that job field. So I felt I had reached my professional boundaries and I couldn't expand anymore. So I started looking at the police department so I could expand myself professionally.
Okay. James?
Well, me, I'm not as deep as Tim here. My background basically was pretty much boring computer work all the time. I was just bored of my job doing the same thing every day. Police work, you get to run and gun. Plus I have a family member, a brother, who was a police officer. He used to come home with different stories that excited me, so here I am.
Yeah, let me tell you, Tim and I go way back. When Tim was a probation officer, I used to be a supervisor of an alternative school, and Tim used to come in and help out, and great asset. So I know you guys are both going to be a great asset to our agency.
Thank you.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is that it's been a long road for you guys to get where you're sitting today.
Definitely.
It's been a long road.
Definitely.
You started out with a hiring process
Yes.
that lasted, what, about 6 months?
Yes.
And then you had to hit a police academy. And then you had to hit the streets. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was like for you?
Well, the hiring process actually was a roller coaster. Coming times and meeting different people, interviewing with different people. The lie detector test was stressful. It was probably a stressful event. I mean, I thought I was telling the truth, but they kept asking me questions over and over again. But coming down to the academy, I had to learn how to be in the military background, in the military atmosphere. I'm not from the military, so I didn't have the whole etiquette down packed. Yes sirs and no sirs, yes ma'ams, and the salutings and the getting up every 5 minutes. It was stressful, and I had to catch myself and tell myself, listen, you can't talk back to these people, you'll get in trouble. And sometimes I did. I mean, I had to learn the hard way, but we made it through.
And Tim, you were actually the class president, right?
Yes, sir.
And you do have a military background?
Yes.
So was it a little easier for you to get to the academy maybe than for some other officers?
I found the mental aspect easier because I had lived that lifestyle for several years. Being the class president did add a lot of stress. I had to worry about myself as well as 20-some other recruits in the class. So it definitely caused me some gray hairs.
Did a good job, though.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Now, when you become a police officer, people tend to treat you differently, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, or just people out in the community. How has that affected you, and do people treat you differently?
Well, they do. I have some friends that I grew up with that now I don't go to the same barbershops I used to go to because they're there and they're not into the same. They're into different things that I'm not into. And I can't have a conversation with some of them sometimes because the stuff that I do, I'm stopping the stuff they're into. So we
Where are you from?
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And we can't really vibe like we used to. But as far as family is family. They're gonna be there. My family is strong, they support me.
Absolutely.
And I'm not on the streets. I haven't had too much resilience. I did have one situation where my FTO, I was writing a ticket for a gentleman and I was talking to him, and my FTO being a Caucasian man, the gentleman was talking to my FTO and my FTO was talking to him. He said, no, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to you, brother. I had to correct him, like, listen, don't separate us, we're here together. To talk to him first and then talk to me. What he's saying is just as important as what I'm saying, if not more important.
Absolutely.
So they try that, but I mean, strong mind keep you in sync with that.
Exactly. Tim?
It's the family and friends. They respect what I do, and my father supported me so much that he recently wanted to attend the Meals for Shields bike ride. until his motorcycle broke down. So I made fun of him for that a little
Wow.
bit. But the family shows a great deal of support.
That's great.
I'm kind of surprised, but I'm glad for that because we need that support.
Most definitely. It's a job that without the family and their support, it's a tough job to have and maintain.
It is. And most of my friends are from probation field or from when I was in the military, I was in security forces, which is military cops. So most of my friends already have that mindset. They understand what I'm doing. On the streets, people treat me well. I respect them as a person, and they, for the most part, unless there's something crazy going on like we've had recently in the city, I've had not much trouble with these citizens.
Okay.
Now, it is interesting when some of my former probation offenders or clients see me and they're like, oh no, he's a police officer
the
now.
reaction is a little different. For sure.
Now, James just mentioned something. He said FTO, and we all know what we're talking about. That's a field training officer. Can you explain a little bit more about what our field training program is so people at home can understand that?
Yes. It's once you finish the academy, the training's not done. You don't graduate the academy on Friday, start the job on Monday, and you're a police officer, go have at it. You're on a field training program, which is like an on-the-job training program for an additional 22 weeks, I believe it is. And in that time frame, you're going to have 3 separate training officers. It's going to give you the opportunity to see 3 different sections of the city, 3 different districts, as well as get the philosophy from 3 different officers. Because each officer on your platoon may have a different approach to how they handle things. I mean, there's certain policies we have to follow, but the way they handle situations may be slightly different. So by having 3 different training officers, you get 3 different perspectives so that when you finish the program, hopefully you can formulate your own opinion on how you want to be as a police officer.
Now, I know when I was on FTO field training, I had an experience my second night, a crazy experience where I ended up tasing someone in a domestic call. Do you have any memorable moments or anything that you can share with us today?
I had a similar situation. It was my first weekend on day work. We responded to a domestic. We didn't even have a cup of coffee in the morning yet. It was a Sunday. It was about 8 a.m. And we got called to a domestic, and I was like, wow, who fights with family members at 8 o'clock on a Sunday? We got out there. There was fight in progress. They broke it up upon our arrival. And as my field training officer started to interview the family to find out, hey, what's going on, one of the participants in the fight picked up a brick. So I tased her. Sad it had to happen, but I didn't know she was going to hit my partner with the brick, hit me with the brick, hit another family member with the brick. So that was a wow moment.
That's probably something you remember for the rest of your career, too.
Yes.
How about you, James?
I do have. It's not as lethal as his, of course, but I just recently probably experienced my best moment. We were riding with my FTO, my field training officer, and I reviewed the most wanted list probably a week or 2 prior to this date, and I saw somebody on the street that reminded me of somebody on the list. I said, hey, that guy's wanted. He said, you sure? I said, I'm positive. Turn around, so we went around the block and came back, and before we stopped the car, he took off. So this is my first foot chase, and I'm not familiar with the city because I just moved here, so like an animal, I got out and chased him, okay? Like the beast that we are. Got out and chased him. Went through an alleyway, and I'm calling it out. Luckily, I knew his name because I'm calling his name out, and I'm not calling out the directions per se like I should, but I was close enough. And the other officers knew where I was at in the vicinity, plus some FTO knew where I was at also. He got through the alley and disappeared. So I got through the other side, and I'm looking like, wait a minute, I'm not that slow. He's not that fast. Long story short, I found out that when I called his name on the radio, another detective knew his last known address, which was a couple houses down from where I was at. Knocked on the door. A young lady came to the door. I told her politely, listen, you have a suspect in there. We need to get him. She agreed happily. She came out. My FTO told me to go get him. I went in, got him, came out with the suspect. It was a very good moment because it was the most wanted guy on the list. It was my first foot chase, so I'm 1 for 1. And
who's keeping stats?
Exactly. And everything just worked out because I had just earlier that day, another classmate, Officer Farrell, she got into a foot chase in my district. And I was like, wait a minute, I just came from that district. And the guy she chased was somebody that we stopped. And I was like, why he didn't run for me? Because I wanted to get into a foot chase. And no longer, an hour later, I guess, I got my first one. So it was a good moment.
I tell you, but that's great, though, in the sense that our community, our resident, helped us, follow through where she could have been resistant.
Definitely.
But then inevitably should have been locked up too.
Well, what you both shared with us is something unique to this job. We're out there every day putting your lives on the line, right? It's it can be kind of scary, for the lack of a better word, to actually get in there and have to chase somebody who might be armed, who might be trying to hurt you. And I think I want you guys to talk a little bit about this. Most people have started a new job at some point in their life. Everyone started a new job, and it's difficult. You've new people, new faces, new rules to learn. But being a new police officer is a unique challenge, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yes. You hear the term rookie thrown about a lot. Rookie this, rookie that.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what it's like to be a rookie as a police officer.
Well, honestly, I enjoy it. Being a new person coming in, because you're allowed to make mistakes. But truthfully, it's nothing like any other job, because you have to do so much so fast, and you have to be on point, or else it could mean your life, your partner's life, or a civilian's life. And you don't realize that going through the academy and watching TV, watching the movies, you don't realize that until you're out there your first day with a gun on your hip and you're in a police car and they call you and it's trouble. And then you realize, wait a minute, if something goes wrong, you have to revert to your training and you have to think fast. So, I mean, it's nothing like any other job that I've ever been. And anybody that hasn't been involved in anything like this or doesn't know anything like this, they can't relate. You have to relate to another cop or another, I guess, military person or somebody who's been through some type of training, because it's nothing like it, and I love it.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of pressure, isn't there?
It is, and I was reminded of that pressure just the other night. I was driving around, and my FTO advised me, hey, you want to drive? I'm like, yeah, sure. We need to learn how to drive. He's like, hey, don't get into an accident because you get fired. I'm like, great. No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Never mind, right?
So, I dropped it a few more miles per hour, slower than what I even normally drive, which is slow. So,
so what's it like being the person that people call in an emergency, being the person that people depend on?
I love it. I tell my kids all the time that I'm the Dark Knight. I tell them, like, my nickname. I love it. I'm the hero. When something goes wrong, sometimes even when I go, my FTO or my field training officer, they're a little hesitant. I get out the car, I want to run in and see what's going on. Like, we had a couple of domestics where two kids were outside on the step, waving us down as we were pulling up the street. They had called 911. A 12-year-old and an 11-year-old had called 911. And we driving up the street, we see him waving like, here. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it must be something bad. Mom getting killed. So we stopped the car. I get out the car, I'm running inside, just thinking we got to get in there fast. My FTO, he's walking like, I'm like, okay, well, what's going on?
Just
but
casual.
Casual. He's been here for 17 years. So he's like, listen, don't run in a situation like that. Calm down, relax. Be ready, because you don't know what you're going into. But just the sight of that made me want to run into and see what I can do to help them or stop whatever was going on. But ultimately, it wasn't nothing bad going on, but it's a great feeling to know that I'm the one they calling to help them, and I have to come prepared to help them.
Definitely gratifying. This job is something gratifying that you would take with you for the rest of your life, and everyone will remember who you are.
Definitely.
Tim, anything?
I like the ability that I can respond and help a family out that's having a crisis. The thing is, I don't always have the answers though. It'd be nice to say that I have the answer to everything. I can magic wand and solve everybody's problems. I have to admit, I don't. So sometimes you have to get creative in how you think to help the family solve their own issues. Because once the family can solve their own issues, hopefully it'll cut down the number of calls of service to go back to that same residence for the same problem.
Empowering the residents.
Yes.
Now, it's only been a couple of months for you now on the street.
Yes.
Less than a year. What are your goals? Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I try not to follow, say, the 5-year plan that we're all raised with in school. I want to be the best person I can be at the position that I'm currently in.
Okay.
So whether it be patrol, whether I'm eventually able to make it to a specialized unit, I don't necessarily want to be the next chief, but I just want to be the best person in the position that I'm currently at. I want to be the go-to guy like I was at my previous position, at my previous job on probation.
All right. James?
I have to piggyback on what Dean said. I'm trying to just capitalize and get better at being a patrol officer now and be the best patrol officer I can be and learn as fast as I can. And when I'm on my own, I can maximize my talents and do big things and make changes. Ultimately, I want to help with kids. I want to work with kids. I've been a basketball coach for over 7 or 8 years. And I like working with kids when they're young, because that's when they're mold, and you can help them. Once they get too old, sometimes, unfortunately, they're lost. You don't give up on them, but sometimes it's a bad situation. So ultimately, I want to be able to help younger kids so they won't get to a bad situation, and they can come back and say, look, Officer Wiggins was the one that guided me right instead of guiding me left, or guided me up instead of guiding me down, so they didn't have no problems, and they made something of themselves.
That's great.
So what's the thing that's probably surprised you most about this job? Has it been as you expected it, or are things a little different now that you're actually wearing the uniform and out on the streets?
Well, I kind of knew what to expect from, because when I worked at probation, I worked in the city for 10 years, so I kind of knew what to expect for the most part. But I'm still have a lot to learn, don't get me wrong. So I haven't really caught too many surprises because I knew what the culture of the city was like. I knew what the culture of the police department was like. So that hasn't caught me by surprise. The hardest part for me is to adjust my sleeping schedules to the rotating shifts that we have.
Yep.
So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So
and I think that's something that goes without, people don't really realize that while they're home sleeping at times or they're having barbecues during holidays, we're working. We're 24/7, 7 days a week.
I mistakenly sent a text to a friend of mine yesterday and didn't realize, oh, it's 7 o'clock. He's probably not even awake yet. Because shift work, I lose track of time. So I was like, oh, my bad, sorry.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's about all the time we have for today. I want to thank you both for being here. I know you were up all night, right? You were working a midnight shift?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
And you, did you working today?
I'm on day shift, yes.
Day shift, all right. Well, Officer Timothy Dean and Officer James Wiggins, thank you so much for being with us. Our men and women of the Wilmington Police Department are out here every day making sure that we keep you safe at home. We hope you keep watching Partners in Public Safety so we can continue to work with you, the citizens of Wilmington, so that we keep our entire city safe. Thank you.